Hey everyone, it's Daniel and thank you so much for checking out the video. This training is all about copywriting and it's especially good for you if you've never written copies before or you're just starting out. We're going to talk about the foundations of a successful copy. We're going to introduce you to Kirsten Back, who is a very talented copywriter I've been following for a while now. We're going to talk about how to use storytelling in your copy, about the right framework that you should be using in order to ensure the success of your copy. And we're going to talk about a lot of things you can do, as well as resonating with your audience, researching who your ideal client is, and really, everything that you should know to start your journey as a copywriter or to create a copy for your business that, again, will most likely convert if done correctly. So I'm going to jump in, introduce you to Kirsten Back, and if you like the videos and if you'd like to check out more of these, make sure to also subscribe, like the video, and let us know what you think down below. So good luck, guys. Let's jump in.
But I would love it if we can spend like 2 minutes, 3 minutes discussing who you are, how you got started, and what is your experience?
Yeah, right. So because I'm talking about storytelling later, I think I better start off with telling you a story about myself. So let's start really, really early. So I was about 5 years old or so, and kind of the highlight of the week was the library van that came once a week to our road. And I had my bag sitting by the door, and I was waiting for the van or the bus coming down the road, and then just went like a sprinter waiting for the gun. I raced 5 flights of stairs, downstairs, out the door, across the parking lot. And when the bus pulled in, I was already there, first in the queue and waiting to be let into the bus. So, and then inside this bus was like a magic world, and it gave me access to mysterious people, evil villains, and all kinds of animals. I'm a big animal lover. You just see one of my colleagues there in the background. That animals that I would never own and I couldn't dream about. So through reading, I realized that words had immense power, and that actually the same words can be rearranged and combined in billions of different combinations to create anything we or I could imagine. So that was something that I found absolutely fascinating. And in the early days, I didn't write much of what I wrote wasn't really so good if I look back to it right now. But what I find fascinating with reading is that you can become a co-creator of the stories you read. So for me, it was like I knew what the heroes looked like. I could imagine their faces, the different features of their faces, whether they had a big nose, a small nose, big ears, or whatever it was. I knew their houses inside out. Where they went to school, the forest they ran through. That was all kind of on my own world. Possibly some of you have similar experiences when they read, for example, Harry Potter first and then watch the film. And it's all so different because you have imagined it totally differently. And Harry Potter looks so different to what you thought he would look like, for example. So eventually I grew out of that phase a little bit, and I entered the corporate world. And I actually spent quite a few years there. But working in a corporate environment words help me build relationships, and I figured out that if I use the right words, I can make people do things, and I can let them understand my thoughts, and I can share my strategies. And it was only that you have to put the words in the right order and context and say the right words to the right people, and then you have the power of persuasion. So words open every door you want to open. And words were the key to action and implementation. And that's also what copywriting is very much about. So at one point, I realized that the corporate world had too many boundaries for me. And I felt really, really fenced in. So eventually became an entrepreneur, and I was just running into walls too often and felt restricted. And I was quite unhappy as well, because I had small children then, and having a corporate career, a full-on corporate career, basically saw my kids in the mornings, in the evenings, put them to bed, and sometimes at the weekends. Otherwise, there was a nanny who looked after my kids. So that was something that I wanted to change. So I became an employee, an entrepreneur, and I returned to what I loved most, and that was words. And I became a copywriter and was able to combine all my fancy degrees. If you want to know about them, at one point I can tell you about. I've collected a few, and and I built a business that I love, and I still write copy, but mostly I teach copywriting. And I love working with entrepreneurs because I see they have the same desire as I do. They want to make an impact, and they want to leave their footprint in the world, and they want to change things, and they want to empower people, or help people to empower themselves. So I created a program that teaches entrepreneurs to write all the copy they need and to drive success of their business. So that's the longer intro into myself. And I think if Daniel hasn't got a question at this point, we can dive right into the first question or first part.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love that. But before I do that, I just want to address one point, guys. I think, again, that as Kirsten just beautifully explained, copywriting, first of all, it's such an incredible thing. There's so much to copywriting. It's just amazing. I myself was never the kind of book reader until like 2 years ago. I've never really intentionally picked up a book to read, but then I really got open to it, and it was amazing. I can see now, after getting to this word, the copywriting is something that no matter what business you're in, no matter what industry you're in, no matter if you're a coach, if you're a realtor, if you're, I don't know, a course creator, copywriting can definitely be something that is important for your business. Okay, Kirsten just mentioned the option of providing value, of creating change, of creating impact. So it also leads me to just shortly mention the previous slides that we had about the law of attraction, about how to provide value so people can get curious about you, check you out, and later also come to you organically and asking you about your business. It's all about providing value and getting people interested. So copywriting can be a thing that actually helps you to do that. And I also want to address one point that I get a lot of times. So just an objection that some people might have before we start. You don't need to be like an amazing writer, and you don't need to be perfect in the English language. I myself am not a native speaker. And until a couple of years ago, I couldn't write a good copy to save my life. I don't think that I'm writing that good as well now, but I'm getting, I'm improving every single day, and that's what's important. That's the thing that is important. And I'm getting a lot of feedbacks. And even though writing doesn't come naturally to me, and I don't think it comes natural to anyone that's first starting out, that's why you also have the blank page kind of thing that a lot of people suffer from, that they just see a blank screen and they have no idea on where to start. And maybe we can even get to that today. I don't know. But yeah, I think it is important. I think that no matter what situation or position you're in, you should take the time to at least give it a shot, because there's a lot of copywriting that you don't know. I didn't know, so I assume a lot of people like myself as well. And yeah, I'd love it if we can start with the question that we have prepared. We do have some notes, and I think you're going to very much enjoy it, guys. So yeah, amazing. Let's start.
Yeah, let me just quickly say a couple of sentences about what you just said with regards to writer's block. And if you're not used to writing a lot and not writing every day, and you kind of want to write posts, you often see you sit down and don't know what to write about, and you possibly all your limiting beliefs around writing come up. You say you're a bad writer, you were never good at writing, it takes too long to write. There are lots of negative thoughts about yourself and your writing, and you can address all those. So you can flip that all around, that you actually come out the other end and love writing. So this is a matter of working on your mindset, but also to form new habits that will allow you to enjoy writing and write confidently and write good copy and content. So that just on the side, even if you do feel like you're not writing too well, that's not like a death sentence to you and your copy. You can learn it. And the first topic that we wanted to talk about is about some common mistakes that people make when they're writing copy. And I just say copy here, but what I really mean is content and copy, because the two of them are intertwined and they go quite well together, and one can't do without the other. So if you want to know about that distinction, then maybe you drop a comment or send Daniel a message or so, and I can get into that at some other point in more detail. So the first mistake that I see is that people don't know themselves well enough. They don't know their strengths. They don't know their talents. Often, like I did in the past, I didn't think I had any particular talents. And so that leads to them struggling to differentiate their businesses, to differentiate themselves in the market, and maybe even create a signature program or service that is hard to copy by the competition. And if you in a very, very competitive industry, then with whatever one relationship coach in every corner, then you need to find a cutting edge. Then you need to find a distinction, how you're different from them, and make people realize that they want to work with you and not the guy who's sitting over there. So the first thing is you need to know about yourselves, and that also goes into that you need to create your foundations, like the values, the mission, vision, and so forth. And for anyone who's watched Simon Sinek's TED talk on Start With Why, if you haven't done that, do that. You sell because the why of your business. Why are you doing it? And you need to know that. And if you don't know yourself well enough, you can't convince people, you can't convincingly sell your services. I mentioned the problems with differentiation. Again, we all have different personalities, we all have strengths, we have certain weaknesses or certain areas that don't come so natural to us. And we can really use those areas that we're strong at for to accelerate our business. So one of the things that I love doing, it's all about strategy. So I love to work with people and they come with a total mess to me, and they say, oh God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then I kind of throw it all out there, sort it out, connect the dots and say, here you have a strategy. So that's something that I do naturally, and other people say, oh my goodness, I can't do this. How are you doing this? And I said, well, it's easy, but for others, it's not easy. But then other people have strengths where I kind of say, okay, thank you. That's not my cup of tea. Another thing is if you don't know themselves, you have problems finding the right stories to tell. And storytelling, we will talk about it a little bit later. Storytelling is so important. If you're having a sales conversation, you need to tell stories. Otherwise, it will be a lot harder to sell. If you're trying to get people's attention, the best thing to do is tell a story. So if you don't know yourself, you don't know which are the stories that interest people. You don't know where to find the stories that you could tell to kind of promote your business or show people that you're an expert, or show people or draw them into your world. The other side of that is that the second mistake is not knowing who your ideal customer avatar is, or short ICA. So that can lead to that your offers are not a perfect match, that you create a program and then no one buys it because they say, well, it doesn't really do it for me. And it also can be that if you don't know your perfect audience, your messaging is often quite off, and it's not cutting through the noise and connecting with the right audience. So if you imagine, for example, that you're writing a postcard, writing a postcard to your mom will be totally different to writing a postcard to your drinking buddy, for example. So you wouldn't write the same stuff. And and that's exactly like that with copywriting. If you do not know exactly whom you're writing to, you might get it wrong. And just imagine that you sent the postcard that was meant to your buddy, to your mom, and it contains some details that you don't want her to know, maybe. So that's the same thing. If you don't know your ideal customer, you get the messaging wrong, and you might not understand the needs they have. Also, not know what stories they want to hear, what interests them. Not everyone likes Harry Potter, for example, but some like some mystery or some crime novels or whatever it is. And it's the same with business stories. They want to hear a particular type of story. So any questions here at the moment, Daniel, or shall I just go on with?
Think that first of all, thank you for that. I think that you've addressed a lot of very important points, guys. And I want to recap quickly because Kirsten just mentioned how to actually, in other words, find your voice and better, resonate with your audience by talking about the things that are actually being, that are interested to them. Because in Facebook or on social media, or no matter what kind of platform you're using, to get your message across, people usually at first don't really know you, but they do see your posts. And obviously, no one would read something that does not resonate with him or is relevant to him in any way. Doesn't matter if it's a post, if it's an ad. Also, if people, try to avoid ads, but if it resonates with them, if it's relevant for them, people only spend a very low amount of time understanding if this type of content is good for them and if they should read it. So Kirsten mentioned the importance of, know who you're speaking to. Because if, for example, you'll be a realtor, okay? And you've been in the realtor industry for years and years and years, but you don't know who your target audience is. You just, figure it out in your head like most people do. And many business owners do that. They've been so long in business that they think that they know their audience because they know everything about the industry. But the fact is that when they try to connect with them and message them, they either do silly mistakes like not talking in the voice that, for example, they can draw terminology and words into their message that completely gets them off because their target audience are not even, understanding those. Or they might speak about topics that are not really interested to their target audience, okay? So the realtor industry is such a huge industry. And sometimes, the author of that topic or that message chooses the wrong types of subtopics to talk about. So you do need to know what are your ideal client is searching for, okay? What is interested in them. And I also want to mention that it takes time. A lot of businesses know that they should find their ideal client. But on most occasions, what I see is that they don't go in depth as much as they should have. And it takes time to really understand your audience, finding your voice. No matter what big podcast or channel you'll go to, if you'll go back to the first couple of videos, you'll see that the message was off, that the videos were not so good. I can draw characters into the air like Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson opened his podcast a couple of years ago. And it was a funny conversation that he had with Steve Larson, that Steve told Russell that the 45 first episodes that you had were bad. But on the 46th one, on podcast number 46, you found your voice. You found the way to really resonate with your audience. And then there was a boom in reach. There was a huge engagement. Everything started to, grow bigger and bigger from every episode. So it took Russell 45 episodes to find his voice. It takes time. You draw something out. You see how people react. You see what they like. What post goes viral. What are the similarities between the posts that perform better than average? And one more thing that is important to understand is that it is okay everyone starts from something, right? I mean, a lot of people have this fear to release content because they think that they're very bad at what they do. They think, well, they might know the subject very well, but when they try to get their message across in a post, for example, they don't think it's good. They suffer from perfectionism. They think they should spend hours and hours and hours into one piece of content, and then they just never post. And I want you to understand one thing that really got me, that really helped me start. The first post that you do, no one really cares. No one listens. You don't have an audience yet. And this is a good thing. You don't want to reach thousands of people because you're still, practicing that thing. You just posted something. You're new to writing. You're new to talk about this industry, and you're new to release content. So you don't have an audience. And same goes for us. So for the 45 first episode, no one really listened. But on the 46, when he found his voice, he started to have a following, and that time he was also good. So it was like a path that he should have taken, because he would never got his message right if he did not practice for 45 episodes, no matter how bad they were. When you get good, people will follow. And it's just a path that you must take. So don't be afraid too much about the stuff that you create, because if it's not good, most likely not a lot of people will see it. When it gets good, this is where the audience will find you, okay? Because we have a ton of stuff online, and what is good just, comes up to the surface. The other things just, go down, no one really sees it. So it's just a natural way to really filter out the content, and it's great for you, actually. And the same thing I'm experiencing in my Facebook. I started sharing stuff. I got 0 engagement. Now I'm, growing every single post, and I see my my writing skills improve as well. So I don't want to go too much in depth with that, but I also wanted to recap that, because I know that a lot of objections that you will have are the things that I mentioned here. So Kirsten, it was amazing, and I'd love to continue to the next question, which I think was about, you mentioned, the importance of figuring out who you're speaking to, who your ideal client is. And I want to address very shortly on why is that so important, because a lot of people hear that they should have their avatar figured out, but they don't know really why. They don't know the strong benefits of having so.
Yeah, I mentioned that just briefly before, that if you don't know your avatar, you don't know exactly what they need, you don't know exactly what kind of language they speak, what they want to hear, what they relate to, which stories they want to hear. So that's very, very important for getting engagement. You need to provide them with value, because you need to imagine that if someone reads your content and your copy, they're investing time and attention into it. So what you need to do is to give them value, so that it's worth their time reading your stuff. So that's a very, very, very simple thing. And let me quickly hop to the next mistake. And Daniel mentioned a little bit about that, and that was the writing mindset. And I talked about it a bit earlier. So if you don't sort out your writing mindset, then you unnecessarily struggle with writing, and you can't even instruct copywriters to write copy in your voice, because you don't even know your voice. And the kind of another thing is that we expect our writing from go to 0 to 100. And that's not the case. As Daniel said, you kind of, it's like a muscle you train. You start with really easy exercises, and stepping out of the comfort zone is really, really bad if you step out too far. I had a chat with a psychoanalyst recently, and he told me that research shows that you shouldn't step more than 6% out of your comfort zone. So the best improvement occurs when you're just going a little bit beyond what you're comfortable with. So for example, on social media, when you go into your social media, you go into a group and just write some comments. Start out with that and try to say, okay, I write a good comment. There's a question that interests me, a point that I find interesting, and I have an answer for it. Just go sit down, draft your comment even in a Word document or wherever, and then copy and post it. And you will see that possibly the response and the reactions you get to it and the engagement will be okay. So do that. Start with something really, really easy. Once you're doing that, you're comfortable with writing comments, then try and attempt a post, and don't worry about the engagement. So by not sorting out your mindset and your writing habits, you're making it unnecessarily hard for you, and you're a lot slower, and it's a lot harder to find your own voice. And another thing that you need to consider is that some people say, oh, I've got writer's block. So usually people never say I've got talker's block. You see, as Daniel and me talking backwards and forwards here this time, all the time, if you were in a conversation, someone asked you a question, I don't think that you say, oh my God, I can't answer, I've got talker's block. That's not happening. So if you have problems writing, just get your phone out and record what you have to say. That's also something that you can do really, really easily. So move on. Next mistake, sloppy branding. That is not targeted at the right audience. So branding is also, and copywriting and your personality, your brand voice is part of your branding. So if you don't get your branding sorted out, then you go around, you look at this guy's website and see, oh my goodness, I really like his style, and you try to copy it, and then you find someone else, another entrepreneur who's crushing it, and say, oh, she's crushing it, then if I copy that, then I will be as successful as she is. And that's not right, because what works for someone else doesn't work for you. So, and you just sound really weird and artificial, and it doesn't feel like you. So you have to have a good feeling about what you write. And so that's one thing, is do your branding properly, and then you know what your voice is, and you know how you want to sound and feel comfortable with it. Last one is not learning the basics of copywriting. And that's quite important. You don't need to know the whole lot, because there's a lot of stuff to know. I've been learning for years now. I'm still learning every day, but to learn a few basics that you can use to write a fairly good quality post, to write a structured answer to someone, how can I say, to know which words to use, because jargon possibly doesn't do it, to use simple words, to not to use really long sentences, to know one or two copywriting formulas that help you with the structure and the persuasion part. So that's really, really important. And that concludes the part of the most common copywriting mistake. And we already spoke a lot about why it is important to understand who your customer is. I've got a heck of a lot more points here. I'm just going to cut this quite short, because we've already said quite a lot about this. And I said that if you know your audience, you can lead a lot more meaningful conversations. And here we have the thing with the attention again. If you have something to say that is of value and that engages your audience, you don't need to worry about the goldfish brain, where they say people only have a 5 or 8 second attention span online. That's not true, because if you're writing interesting and valuable stuff, people will stay tuned and they will read what you have to say. So the other thing is that when you, well, let me start again. As an entrepreneur, you have to sell a service, and all your audience isn't hopping onto your customer's journey at the same stage. So what happens is that you've got customers coming into your world at different stages. So some might probably just have learned that they've got a problem that you can help solving them, and they're still kind of trying to investigate what kind of problem that is. And others, they might already have made a buying decision, but they still wondering who they're going to buy from. So these two people, they need totally different content. So one needs some educational content about telling them about the problems and what kind of solutions are out there, and learn about that they don't have to live with this problem. The other guy who's already ready to buy just needs to understand why you are the best person to provide the service, to the best person to work with to solve the problem. So that's something that is really, really important, and that you need to figure out, that you exactly know where your audience is in the buyer's journey. And the other thing is that is very important is that you need to be able to engage your audience's emotions. And the fact is, there was some research done by a professor called Gerald Zoltman, and he found out that 95% of all buying decisions are made emotionally, and then we've got 5% of our rational brains left. And so if I don't know, I'm not really the type of, but if you want to go, someone said, oh, I need to buy this, I want to buy this handbag, but you've already got 20 sitting in the wardrobe. You don't need it, you just want it, and you made the decision because you desire this handbag, because you know what this handbag or pair of shoes or whatever, or car, make you feel like. And that's what is, those are the emotions, what you imagine what it feels like after buying what you wanted. And then your rational brain kicks in and say, yeah, but you don't really need it, you've got the shoes, all the shoes you need, and but you've made the decision already. And usually the emotional brain overrides our rationality. So that concludes part number 2. Daniel, anything to say about that?
Well, it is amazing. I want to quickly recap. Guys, this is like marketing 101. If you don't know this, you should. People don't buy your product, they buy how you make them feel, okay? They buy through emotion and they justify it by logic, okay? We buy products because of how it makes us feel, because of how it makes people, see us, perceive us. It is all comes down to emotion. And I think that it's great that we were able to address that. And yeah, I think that we're pretty much good. Guys, I want to remind you to submit your questions down below, because we will address all of them if we can towards the end of the live. And yeah, nothing to add besides that.
Okay. Right. So I could go through a few ways on how you could find your customer avatars, but I think we've talked a lot about customer avatars. Let me just say, a good thing is if you're online, if you've got groups and you're hanging out in, you can do a lot of research in there. You can also run beta trials and of your programs. You can stalk your competitors and be aware of what's going on in the industry. Another good one is to go to Amazon and read reviews on books that kind of are about your topic, and then to read the really, really bad reviews, because they tell you what your customers want and why they didn't like a particular book on the topic. So
I think it's really important, because we also got a question about that, actually. Emil asked, how can I understand the needs? So Emil, this is just it, okay? You can find it by many ways. I think that the best one will be to actually network with your audience, not from a selling position, but more from a curious kind of position. You can participate in group and ask. So if, for example, you're targeting, I don't know, course creators, you can join groups about course creation. And then, just use that group to learn about their problems, about their desires, about what stops them from scaling, about, you can interact, you can actually interact with that specific audience of yours. And very, very easily, by the way, from the Facebook groups, you can basically get to whoever you want. And ask them and do polls and do research and launch small things and see how the audience reacts. I mean, if you're going to fail, at least fail fast. Don't think about it too much. Always kind of test it. Always kind of draw it out there and see the response, because chances are that the first kind of products and launches that you're going to create wouldn't be the best ones. Let's say it like that. But with understanding, with gathering this data, with doing further research, you will be able to optimize, tweak, and make better versions every single time. So this is just a short way to address your question. And perfect. I'd love it if we can continue to the next one.
Yeah, let's continue with the next topic that we have, and that is the importance of using storytelling in your writing. And storytelling is another way that allows you to connect with the subconscious brain. And we've already seen how powerful the subconscious is, and storytelling does exactly that. And our brains, they are wired for storytelling, because in our old caveman days, our survival depended on it. So to know where the most fish are, or the berries that are healthy and not kill you, and which mushrooms to eat, basically that helped us to survive. So we haven't, how can I say, evolved that far that we've come out of storytelling yet. So that is something that you definitely need to use. And so in business, you can use different types of stories for different purposes. And there's a book that I like to recommend. Oh, I've got it even here. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So, oops, if you can see that. This is an absolutely brilliant book about storytelling, and it's very well written, and you will love it, I can tell you that. So this lady, Kindra Hall, she says that a perfectly placed and impeccably delivered story can transport a person to a place beyond interested, just straight past paying attention and into a state of complete captivation. And so you possibly have experienced something like that when you go to the cinema. You go into the cinema, you watch a movie, and when the movie is over, you might be a bit dazed and still be in that world of the movie and feel really sorry that it has ended. And it was kind of effortless captivation with the story. So that's the power, and you can do that in writing or in movies or several other ways. So the shift that a story can make in your business is really, really profound. And there are three elements in storytelling that are very important. And one is attention. So you want to capture the attention of your audience. Then the second one is influence. That's where the persuasion comes in, where you influence your audience's thinking. And the third one is transformation, because what you want is that your audience comes out of a story and they are transformed. They are in a different state. So stories have a long-lasting impact on people. And the more kind of people go into the story and is captivated by the story, the more likely are they to adopt the perspectives within the story. And that's where the kind of influence comes in. If you can really identify with the hero and the problems and what's going on there, you really see their perspective and you kind of feel their perspective. And then, as I said, you emerge out of the story, sorry that it's over, but you have changed, your perspective might have changed. So, and that is also something what I mentioned earlier about the goldfish brain. So they say, write the perfect headlines because people only have an attention span of about 8 seconds. Yes, you really need a good hook. You need to get the attention. But then you also imply that it's your audience's fault that they lose attention. So you're blaming your audience for not paying attention to you. You should see it the other way around. You don't have to wrestle for your audience's attention. They give their attention freely and often without even noticing, only because you're telling a captivating story. And that's the major point, that you need to get rid of this notion to blame your audience for not being able to keep attention for longer than 8 seconds. They can do it. And if something is really interested, they read long form copy. They read whole books. You just have to make it worth their time. And one thing is, storytelling is co-creative. That's what I mentioned earlier. You dive into the world, and you live in the world. You let your imagination play. So that's something that we lose too often, our imagination, our creativity. But words have the power to trigger that again, to let us go into this world. And it's a very pleasant world to be in. So then also when you tell stories, for example, if you tell stories about how you got into your business, why you started as an entrepreneur, then if you tell your story in a way that your story mirrors the experiences that your audience has, then they're automatically drawn into it. When they can feel that you've gone through the same pain that you got out of it, that's really, really important for them. So they're going to lose themselves in your story. So so if you captivate your audience with a story, then you will have access to all the attention you could ever need. So that's one of the points that I wanted to hammer down, really. It's not that they can't think anymore and cannot pay attention. They can. You just need to grab their attention and keep it. Daniel, any comments at this point?
Again, super interesting and super, super cool that we were able to address this point as well. I think, well, there's a quote that I really, really like from Don Miller that says basically, just confirms what you said. Storytelling is like the only tool to keep your audience interested for hours and hours. Storytelling is something that should be learned. It's something that obviously you need to practice with. It doesn't come naturally. A lot of people, including myself, find it hard sometimes to find good stories. But if you really spend the time into thinking about it, you have a lot of stories, okay? The stories themselves don't need to be that great. They just need to, allow you to share the insights and things that you want to share in a more interesting way that will also, by the way, a hidden benefit of that, become more authentic and help people resonate with you, because they resonate way easier if you provide stories, because they get a glimpse at your personality, about the life behind the screen. They get to know the real you, and it automatically helps them to connect. And storytelling also allows you to do a lot of things that you cannot do without storytelling. I mean, if, for example, you're looking to establish your brand, to become an authority in your industry, one of the things that you should do, obviously, is let people know why should they care and why should they listen to you. So in other words, what is your experience? What are your achievements? What are your results? Okay. So I can go on Facebook and write a post saying, okay, I helped 1,000 people and I did that and I did that. And I started from there and I'm now a millionaire. Obviously not, but I can do that. But the way that it will get across, if I do it this way, would be very bad. It will be kind of a show-off, kind of braggy way. It wouldn't get the message across. People will ignore it. People wouldn't take the time to really go through it, because attention span, it is true. About 10 years ago, it was about 12 seconds. It is now 8, and it continued to go down and down. It's, I think, 8.25 by research made by Microsoft 2 years ago, I think. And it goes down every single year, and we as marketers must adapt. If we want to keep in business, you cannot, trust the things that worked 10 years ago, because those first seconds are very crucial. So you do need to come up with the right hook. You do need to come up with the right way to say things. So again, there's the braggy way, and there is another way, using storytelling. So for example, if you're an expert and you're looking to show off your skills and abilities, what better way to do that than to share stories about successful clients of yours, about results that you've helped gain. This way, if done smart, you can both share your abilities, skills, and build your authority online, and do it as a story in not a braggy way, but in a way that will also inspire a lot of people, keep them interested, and go over basically everything that you want them to go over, which basically will also allow them to get a glimpse at your experience, skills, and results. But they will love it. They will love it. It will keep them interested. And you wouldn't go across to come up like, a jerk. That the first kind of person, if I did it, I would look like a jerk. I promise you. No one likes to read people who brag about themselves. But there is a right way to do that. And now I don't tell you use storytelling just to brag about your skills and abilities. I'm saying that this is one example of you being able to use storytelling to do something that is very crucial for your business, because no one will buy your services or products unless they know your skills, abilities, and results. They need to know that you're the expert in that industry, that you are the go-to guy. So this is just a recap of things, and this is my way to share with you how powerful storytelling can be. You can use it in writing, you can use it in a conversation. It also helps you to better communicate with people, because people like hearing stories, okay? And just an FYI, Emil asked about the book that you mentioned. It is Stories That Stick by Kindra Hall, okay? Amazing book. I remember you recommending it to me. I didn't get to it, but I will go over it. I'm sure that I will. And yeah, that's amazing. And thank you so much. And yeah, I'd love to keep going.
Right. So the other thing is when people think, oh, I don't have any stories to tell, or I can't think of any stories. Well, stories, they lurk everywhere throughout your day. So if you have your phone with you, or maybe a notebook, you can find stories in the supermarket. You can talk with a friend, and the friend will remind you of something that happened in the past. So there are stories everywhere. You just need to desensitize or sensitize yourself to capture those stories, to when there's a spark of a story, to make a note, so that you can get back to it. So everyone has stories, and you just need to kind of take note of it and realize what could be a story. And so if we move on now to the next one, which was, how can you write a story even if you've never written copy in your life? So there are a few basic things. One thing is that possibly all of you at school learned a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Very, very basic structure that applies to stories, to every story. And I don't know if anyone has watched that Peloton advert that was so kind of talked about in the press, that it was so bad, so evil. There's these exercise bikes called Peloton, and it's a really interesting one, because there's a young woman who gets given this exercise bike, and then she steps on it and exercises, and everything is good. The problem with that exercise was that she missed out on the first, or that Peloton missed out on the first part of the story. They didn't say what her normal life was before she got this awesome bike. So they stepped right in with telling how awesome the bike was, and she was sitting on it. And that confused a lot of people, because yes, we need these three parts of the story. We need the beginning, the middle, and the end. And it's really, really important. If you keep that in mind, then if you have these components, where you start with what's my normal right now. So you could say, for example, when you started out as an entrepreneur, what was your situation there? Were you in a 9-to-5 job, and you were maybe executive level, and you wanted to do something else? What was your situation? So you start out with a normal, and then there's some sort of event where you had this aha moment that told you that you have to change something, you have to step out of that job. I mean, for women, it's often with when they have children and they realize that something is happening in that in that child's life. So they missed an important football game they wanted to go to, and they just didn't go to it because they were too busy working or something. There's always some sort of event that makes you realize that something needs to change. It's can also be called an explosion. It can be a very subtle moment. It can be something really, really radical, like an accident or something. And then you go through a transformation. You learn something, and if you struggle, and in the end you come out and have a new normal, the life after. So if we, for example, Jason Bourne, he kind of goes through all this struggle and all the dangers he goes through. In the end, he's a changed person. Every movie is like that. You start with a hero, a flawed hero that has and the day-to-day life is described, and then something happens that changes the life, turns it upside down, and he has to man up and create a new life and transform into a more knowledgeable person, a more powerful person, a more empowered person. So that person goes through a transformation and comes out stronger at the other end. And those are the three parts of the story that every story you tell has to have. So when you've got a strategy call or discovery call, whatever you call them, a sales call, and you're telling a client story, then you need to talk about what your client story was when you started working with them, what their struggles were, what their pains were, what they were looking for. Then you talk about the moment they realized they needed help and they wanted to invest in some coaching. Then and then you have to talk in the end what their life is like now. Basically, the situation that the client you've got on the call wants to aspire to. That's why they want to hire you. You need to tell them about how different the life is, how everything has become reality that they ever wished for. So that's the three parts of the story that you always have to have. And then let me just collect my thoughts. So you have to have the three parts of the story. And when you do copywriting, there are also some copywriting formulas that you can use to structure your writing properly. And one of them is called AIDA, like the opera, where you kind of get attention, then you get their interest, then you raise their desire, and then you make them take action. That's a very, very basic copywriting formula that you can use and to start out with, and to start structure your posts so that they have some effect. Right. I think we've got through everything here, and so I just give you a few little tips. What I think is good for writing better copy or getting through your writer's blocks if you're suffering from that. So one thing that I spoke about was that mindset is absolutely key, that you need to kind of get a better relationships. Another thing is practice. It's the same as if you are starting a new sport. So a couple of years ago, I started with calisthenics. I don't know whether anyone knows that. It's kind of body weights exercises. And my goal was to be able to do a pull-up. So I was always hanging like a limp noodle on the bar. So I couldn't do a single pull-up. And so I did all these weird exercises and lots of push-ups and crunches and not real pull-ups, but in different positions that they are nearly kind of building up. And it's the same with writing. If you exercise your writing muscles a lot, if you do it regularly, if you try out different things, different types of posts, different places that you write, producing different types of content. It doesn't need to be writing. It can be audio. You can create little videos and these social media algorithms like video anyway. So you can do that. So there are many ways of where you can tell stories. You can practice your storytelling with friends. So just exercise that muscle, that writing muscle, and put it into your calendar, put it into your agenda. It needs to be on the plan, and then stick to it. Yeah, so that's basically really important and a tip what you should do if you kind of want to write better. And another way to write better is read. Lots of different stuff. So if there are any questions, we could move into that, unless you want to add anything, Daniel.
I'd love to add and remind you guys again to submit your questions down below, because very soon we're going to, answer all of that. So you actually have a great opportunity now to ask us whatever you want. Again, keep it copywriting related, writing related. But basically, yeah, I would love to help. So I want to quickly recap, because again, I think that you provided a lot of beautiful explanations about the importance of using it, how to use it, the structure. And because I want to make sure, I try to do it in every interview and in every training, to keep it practical. I want you guys to not just, listen to this fun interview, but actually implement the things that we say here. So there is sorry for going back to Russell Brunson every single time, but Russell Brunson uses to say, if you'll write, well, it's very important, especially for experts, especially for people who provide services, consultations, coaching. Do one piece of content a day. If you'll do it for a year straight, one piece of content a day, you'll never have money issues again. It is very important to document your story, to document your journey. It is very important to keep being consistent about the things that you do, because it has so many advantages. People, when they see you, they need to find, a guide. Well, they come to you because they have a specific problem. They're looking for someone who can help them with that problem. So, for example, Kirsten just mentioned that she couldn't do, one pull-up, which is something that a lot of people suffer from. So that kind of people might, if, again, it troubles them too much, look for a trainer, a personal trainer, because maybe, alone they couldn't never do that, or, push, be consistent enough, and they need the extra push. So obviously, when you look for someone, you're looking at what is called an attractive character. You're looking at someone who you can be sure can help. And one of the things that help you make that decision is through consistency. So if I'll look at a personal trainer page and I'll look that until a month ago, he never shared anything about, personal training, and he never really shared any value. He's not really that strong in the game, we can say. It will trouble me, most likely. I would look for people who are consistent, that I can know for sure has been doing it for a while, that provide results, that provide value, that get engagement, that, I'm looking for that social proof. And you actually releasing content constantly helps you with that, okay? Because the more you'll post, the more you'll document, the more you'll, share, the easier it will be for your audience to find you. The easier it will be for that audience to also connect with you. Because, yeah, they might see your post somewhere a couple of times, but if you're being consistent enough, they'll see you enough times. They'll get an idea, a glimpse of who Daniel is, or who John is, or who is this personal trainer, and he'll keep himself in their mind every day. And this is where you shine. This is where, you become more attractive and you attract people to you. So it is very important. And I think it would be amazing if you can actually take the things that we say here and start working on your content, okay? So for example, because I know it will be an issue, we say you have a lot of stories. And I'm telling you that you do. But if you're having a difficulty finding them, you don't have to come up with a physical scenario or event that happened to you on life, okay? You don't have to. You can share your thoughts on someone else's. So I, for example, yesterday did a workout, and I heard a speech by Arnold Schwarzenegger during my workout, because I like hearing like motivationals. It makes me pump and energize. And I've always been following Arnold because I think he's super motivational and I like the way he says things. And that speech really got through me. So what I did after the workout, I just wrote a post about it. Nothing really happened, but I shared how it inspired me. I shared my own insight on that speech. And this was, again, me creating a piece of content without actually, having to think hard on the content. Because I heard that, I saw it as a great thing to share, and I did that. So it's actually very easy if you simplify things. You don't have to come up with the perfect story. It doesn't always have to be about you. It can be, and it will be great if you can, let them see you behind the scenes. But again, it can be about anything. So a lot of people are having a difficulty sharing stories because they don't think that they're interested. They don't think that they have the results to share. They don't think that they are qualified to become an expert. This is another issue that I see a lot of people suffer from. Looking for that certification, looking for the approval, someone to go put a crown on their head and say, okay, now you can help people, because this will never happen. It's all only in your head, and you need to figure this one out and go help people and go start posting. And you need to realize that no matter what position you're in, there will always be someone who will be one step behind you. And everything that you need to do is just show him that path. Just help him. Even if that's so, if you think that your help is small, it might be completely different for him. There was an amazing story about a very bad man, I don't remember the name, that actually murdered a lot of people. And then I don't know how to tell it very well, but I want you to know the lesson from it. He basically pretended to be a teacher in a high school or university or something without actually having the qualification for teaching that material. And he did that for years, escaping from authorities. And when the authorities finally caught up to him, they asked him how the hell was he able to teach a certain subject without even knowing anything about it. So what he said, long story short, was that all he needed to do is actually be one step one step ahead of them, ahead of the class. He didn't need to know everything about a subject. He didn't need to be an expert. He didn't need to have university degrees or something. But obviously it would help, but basically all he needed to do is know just a little bit more than his students, and then he could help them. Then he could teach, and that way he was able to escape authorities for years, I think. So again, guys, don't overcomplicate things that needs to be simple, because you overcomplicating things, you thinking that everything needs to be done perfectly is what stops you. It's what, stops you from scaling, from getting your audience to find you, from finding your message, from finding your voice. It is the better thing that you can possibly have. And it all comes down to you. And you can make this shift. You can make this shift by start posting today. I invite you to do it today. I invite you to do it tomorrow. Post something, anything. And again, just remember, if it's not good, no problem. Facebook will do its thing and no one will see it. Not many eyeballs will be on it. But if it's good, it will get a decent amount of eyeballs. And if you continue with that, you'll obviously improve and you get more and more eyeballs. So Facebook does an amazing thing. People cry about the engagement and reach. And I say it's beautiful, because Facebook allows you to really get the right messages across. Because if it's not good, you don't want a lot of people to see it. But the more you improve, the better Facebook will help you get to more people. And by the time that you'll master, or not master, but improve yourself, you'll already have an audience. How beautiful is that? So this is it. And I want to recap that. And again, guys, submit your questions, because we soon get to all of them. And I think it will be super helpful if you can share us what stops you, what makes you not do that post now, and if whether we discussed something that was unclear. So yeah, I'd love it if we can continue, actually.
Right. Do we have any questions? I see one here. What is the perfect story structure?
Okay, yeah,
Emil.
Mm-hmm.
There. I mean, to go into structures that would take a little while, but what I said earlier before is you get into the very simple 3-part structure to start with: beginning, middle, end. That's one thing that you need to keep in mind. And what I always find important is to say that you have a focus, a single focus for every story you tell. So don't start writing something and then go off on different directions and write about this, write about that. So it is really important that your story has a simple focus, a single focus. One thing you're going to talk about, and every single paragraph that you're writing has to support the main idea. So you start with your headline, you introduce, or you say what you're writing about. Then you give a little introductional paragraph. Then you have different paragraphs with whatever 5 points you want to make about your story. And then you finish off with a summary and a call to action. That is a very, very simple structure that you can use.
Mhm.
And there are many more. I could talk about this for another hour or so, but I'm not. So that's something that you can do really, really easily.
Yeah, I think a call to action is super important, guys. You don't have to sell. I mean, people usually, when they hear the call to action, they think, okay, but this is a post. I don't have anything to sell, or I don't want to sell because people will, ignore my post because they think I'll just here to sell myself. So a call to action should be on any post, on any piece of content that you do. It doesn't matter what it is or where you advertise it. You need to have a call to action, and a call to action can be a question about how it makes them feel, if whether they agree with your message, if whether they would like to see more of that stuff. A call to action, especially on social media, is mandatory because that small question, that small what am I going to do now? That next step is what is going to help you reach more people. So you might share an awesome, amazing piece of content, but at the end you didn't ask them anything. So a lot of people read through the end, they liked it, but there was no next step. So they said goodbye, they thank you in their hearts about the piece of content, but that's it. And by them not commenting, you actually lost a lot of potential reach. So I, for example, finish a lot of posts. I try to make call to action in every post that I do. It doesn't mean that I sell anything. So I can, again, ask them how it made them feel, if whether they agree, what is their best takeaway. Again, it's very simple. So do that because it will help for sure. So again, guys, I invite you to, I think that we'll wait like 1 minute or two, if we can, to get you the option to submit more questions, because I think it will be amazing. And in the meantime, if you have anything to add to fill the void, it will be awesome.
Yeah. So do you want me to talk a bit more about storytelling, maybe?
I think that if you can, again, only if possible, to try to come up now, what is the next step? Like, what is our call to action? Like, before share where people can find you.
My call to action would be to let you all know that I have a program that if you want to learn more about copywriting or want to learn copywriting for your own business, then let me know, because I have a program where I teach you exactly that. And another thing is that I saw the need that a lot of people are struggling with their sales and landing pages. So I've extracted all the kind of things you need to learn to write sales and landing pages. And I've got a kind of smaller standalone program now as well to teach people to write sales and landing pages. So my call to action is, if you want to have more information about that, then drop a message and I can let you know.
Okay, amazing. And guys, please take what we said and start implementing it. And if something, I don't know what, stops you from doing that, share with us. Share either inside this live, either inside a group. Share with me personally on Messenger. I don't care. but let me know what it takes for you to actually, start doing this thing, because this is very important for your success. This is very important for your brand, for your company, for you to be able to scale. This is one thing that stops you that I want to solve. So do that, please. And I'd like to, again, because I see no further questions, I'd like to end it. Thank you so much, Kirsten.